Welcome back to UI5ers Live. Today we have two additional well-known faces with us. Our long-standing friend and UI5 ambassador, Volker. Hi, Volker. And then from the UI5 core development team, Tobias. Hi, Tobias.
Hi.
Yeah, and also here with me, as always, Stefan Beck.
Hi.
Peter Müsig.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
And Andreas Kunz.
Hello.
Yeah, the topic we want to discuss today, in our January episode, Stefan mentioned that there will be some changes in our testing strategy in favor of open standards and wdi5. That time there were still some things to be sorted out, but now we can share some news or some bit more about this, and that's why Volker is with us, as he's one of the main drivers here. And then we have two UI5 core improvements in the program for which Tobias is responsible. And this is an improvement in the number formatting and an additional configuration for timestamp. And then, Peter, I believe you also have some topics you want to share at the end, right?
Yeah, correct. Can't wait to do so.
Very good. So, but before we start with the actual topics, we have some minor announcements, or rather news. First of all, a project that is very close to my heart, and I think I'm not the only one here in the room, and that's UI5Con on Air 2022. Some of you might have heard already, we announced it last week, that UI5Con will take place this year on July 7th and 8th. In a virtual format again. We have still some little hope that we can maybe convert it to a hybrid event, but there we are still awaiting some news from our department or from our company, what is possible. And once we can figure out what hybrid or what kind of hybrid event we can offer, we will share more on this. Yeah, and as you might have seen as well, call for speakers opened last week as well and is still open till April 11th. We hope that we get quite a lot of submissions from the community again, as this is a community event and it's about sharing your know-how with the community and not only latest news from our area. So take the time, get together, brainstorm, and come up with ideas what you could present about workarounds, about tips and tricks, about projects, ideas, whatever is somehow related with UI5. Just submit these ideas. And in addition, we are still looking for volunteers helping us with the organization of the event. So if you have a passion for organizing things, or if you are a live streamer or just want to help, enter your name in the chat or get in contact with us via email or the Open UI5 Slack channel. And we are more than happy to connect you then with our organization team. And then this becomes, again, a real community event we are all looking for. Yeah, and then some weeks ago, the results of this year's State of JS survey came out. And we could see that also some UI5ers took part of this. And that was really, really great to see. It was for us, it was a special moment to see our Open UI5 framework on the list of the frameworks. So thanks a lot who participate there and shared also their opinions with the creators of the survey. So Peter, you also want to say something to this, or anyone else?
I just shared in the background because I said it already, and I would like to really thank you to also vote for Open UI5. Maybe next year we can be even a bit more on top, but we had a good start now this year, and this makes me really happy that we are listed there. Thank you for that.
So, but that's all from my side and enough news, but let's start with the actual topics, and I would hand over to Volker.
So here we go. Let me introduce you to wdi5. Some of you certainly have heard it already. It's the designated successor of UI5. And what is wdi5 in itself? It consists of two parts. The foundation is WebDriver IO. It's a remote control tool for browsers. And of sorts, when you use it, you impersonate, in quotes, the user driving an application, a web application. On top of that, we've built wdi5. It's an extension to WebDriver IO. It's nothing per se or on the side. So it lives on top of WebDriver IO. And what it does, it provides you with the ability to both use OPA5 style matchers and the UI5 control API during tests or inside tests. What does it look like? You can see here a sample test of a very basic UI5 application. So the UI5 application is running here already in the background. It's the demo app that we use in wdi5 itself to test wdi5 also. And what you can do with it are operate some standard controls, and so nothing specific or special here in this, other than there's multiple controls available. Now, if you look at the test itself, I already mentioned you have with wdi5 both the OPA5 style matchers or locators available, plus the UI5 API for operating controls. And you can see that already in the selector here. So providing ID and view name should be familiar to those of you who've used OPA5 before. And then the press event after that thing is located should be familiar to you too from, let's say, operating a button in a standard controller in UI5. You can also mix the two, so it's not mutually exclusive. You can use both wdi5 APIs, UI5 APIs, and WebDriver IO APIs. You can see it down here at the end of the test. I used the browser.get URL, which is part of WebDriver IO to, well, get the URL of the current web application and then an assert to contain something. So this is pure WebDriver IO running inside wdi5. If I execute that, well, surprise, surprise, the browser is going to start. And what the test does is then navigate to another view, assert that the list is available and visible, and then navigate back. And with a little verbose configuration, you can also see what wdi5 is doing in the background. It's logging on the console here, what's happening internally. You can turn this off too. So go into a silent mode. And then at the end, you see the spec reporter here actually giving you the result. Interesting is probably that out of the box, we're also providing two very convenient ways of having wdi5 running on the side. So on the one hand, you can debug the test at runtime. And on the other hand, you can morph into a sort of test-driven development mode, if you want to call it like that, which means you can have the test running permanently on the side, and then actually manipulating the test, and the test's going to start over. So let me show you both.
Will it know, Volker, which tests are necessary for one change?
Yes. So it selectively only runs those tests that you change at dev time. So what I'm going to do here is I'm simply going to launch a debug terminal. So that's all you have to do to actually get into debug mode for wdi5. So then I switch to the node version that I use here for operating things. And then let me put a breakpoint, let's say here in the test. So you can see the test reads, use that button with the ID so-and-so on this view and press it. So we actually move or navigate to the next view. And if I run npm test here, again, the same thing is going to happen. wdi5 is launching, the browser is launching, but now it actually halts at the point of the navigation. And in there, you see that you have the entire selectors and everything that's available here inside what you're used to in Visual Studio Code. And you can then step forward one step and then actually see what the list control looks like. See all the containing UI5 functions down here, the API, and so on and so forth. And then, well, if you're done, press play. Yeah, that's about this. So you can easily debug and step through the test at runtime, which, well, is simply very convenient. And then also down here, if you now activate the watch mode, which is, well, with the /watch, the browser is going to start on the side and then just remain open while run the test once. And then after that, it simply halts. Okay. And if I now change something in the test itself, let me just insert a blank here so things start off again, then it'll run the test again on the side. So a very quick dev cycle that enables you to actually code along while the test is running and simply shortening things. Okay, that much for the demo. And before I then hand it back over to Tobias, or hand it over to Tobias, there's a couple of things I want to mention in regards to wdi5. So wdi5 is written wdi5, but spelled wdi5 and pronounced wdi5, and also for a reason. There is no, or the first letter there in the word is we, as in we all. Yeah. So from the progress perspective, we are sponsored, we as in JNSsoft, to actually code in features to wdi5 so it reaches true feature parity with UI5. But after that, it's a UI5 community thing. So it's a we, as in we need to establish a government model and see where wdi5 goes from there. There is no point in either SAP only or JNS only heading things. It's going to be a community thing. But more on that when the point in time comes when we can actually announce wdi5 1.0, meaning it has feature parity with UI5. And then if you look at the point of feature parity with UI5, so already now I think wdi5 is powerful in means of parallel test execution. So in contrast to UI5, you can cut down your test run times by a magnitude. And also you have the full UI5 API available at test time, which makes it, I think, pretty easy for developers to get used to the way of writing tests. And in the end, I think wdi5 should actually get out of the way. It should be a test tool that runs on the side, that safeguards functionality inside your UI5 applications, but it shouldn't be a hurdle that you need to jump over. It should simply be the safeguard that's running on your side. And if we achieve that, if it becomes a useful tool that people, well, might even enjoy using, I think then mission accomplished. And with these grandiose words, back to Tobias or Margaret.
Okay, thank you, Volker. And the next one will be you, Tobias, showing number formatting and timestamp handling.
Today, I want to talk about numbers and dates. So I'm using the official demo kit to showcase the two of them because there's a pretty nice site which shows the two of them in one go, so I don't have to switch all the time. So it's under samples, XML view, and then you have here the UI5 OData types. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is about the number parsing, which has been improved. So when you think of numbers, you always have this decimal separator problem when you switch between locales or when you switch from German to English. There's also a pretty nice Wikipedia site about it. So the dot and the comma is typical, the thing which is, how to say, confused with each other. And if you have a look at the word, it's also, there's no unity inside this question what the right decimal separator is, and it's really locale dependent. So, and what we have introduced with UI5 version 1.99 and 1.96 patch level 6, we have a stricter parsing of the numbers. So I'm just scrolling. So it's the same page. So here with 1.98 and here with the latest one, it's 1.99. And this works out of the box, so you don't have to configure anything. And I'm just scrolling down to the float. So the float typically shows the best because it has the grouping separator and the decimal separator. Typically they are different. And the old behavior is, here you see a number in the English format. So the decimal separator is a dot. So 1.43, it's nicely taken. But if you confuse it with the German decimal separator, which is, for example, a comma, and type in here or copy paste it from somewhere, you have this automation of that it takes just the number which you added, but you wanted to have actually a decimal number inside. And since it's like the factor 100, which has been put here, it can make a huge difference depending on your input, how your input is interpreted. And what we now did, you see on the right-hand side, so it's also English. The grouping separator is a comma. The decimal separator is the dot. It takes it, but if you confuse it, and you paste in here a German number from somewhere, it will then correctly say, okay, it's not a number which we detected because you have in here the grouping separator. It doesn't make sense to have such a number inside, and we highlighted it in red, and the user can fix then his input and say, okay, I actually meant 1.34, and then it's interpreted as the correct number and it's taken. So there's no automatic, how did one name it, pushing the numbers together, which was then wrongly interpreted and led to a wrong user input.
And the old behavior just simply ignores the grouping thing if it's in the wrong position. And for the new handling, for the strict handling, it requests or requires to have it in the right position. Otherwise, it will be it will annoy you.
Exactly. We did some advanced things. So of course, you can still enter it without anything. So it takes up the most right grouping separator if there's exactly one present, and if that's at the wrong position, it will say, okay, it's most highly a confusion of the number.
So if you start using one group separator, you need to put them properly everywhere, right?
It is exactly the way. So if you have two grouping separators, it will, since there can be only one decimal separator, if there are two grouping separators, it will just take it, the input, because then the user didn't confuse them. Because if he copied a number from somewhere else with a decimal separator, there can be only one decimal separator. And this we had lots of issues with this decimal separator confusion, and this will hopefully solve this issue because it simply rejects the user input and the user can correct his input then.
Would it make sense to put the expected number format together with the error message, enter a number? Because the user might think, well, I entered a number and might not be aware which language is actually used, because it can depend on the browser, on the application, and on many factors.
Exactly. So this is also how to say one of the follow-up topics is actually, or also a bigger topic is actually improving the error handling of the number format. So giving a better context on what went actually wrong. So that's still on the list of to-dos. Yeah, that's right. That would be definitely the best. So did you actually mean this number, or giving the user a bit a better handling? For now, it just rejects it so the user can correct it, but future-wise, that would be exactly the error handling will be really awesome and will provide the ability to give the user better error reporting, or better hint on what went wrong. Exactly, and so this is an input with a type float. It also works for the other numbers and currency and units. And the good thing is you don't have to do anything. So this works just out of the box with 1.99 and 1.96.6. Exactly, so just on the, I hope I have it in the right size. So from a number format perspective, since the OData type uses, or the model type uses the number format, I'll just number format. So I'm just formatting a number, and now the number one, and also the parse then just rejects the input. So if the comma or if I enter, for example, an invalid, it will just say, okay, it's not a number. But as mentioned, the error handling or giving a better error is actually on the list of future enhancements. So for now, it simply just rejects it. So it can be also used on an API, from an API perspective. Okay, so and the next part is about the date and the time zone. So as previously said, numbers and dates. And this one I can, so it's actually a new feature. It's still experimental. And that being said, I'll just open the documentation. And you have with the UI5.1.99, you have the ability to change the time zone. Just quickly going inside the core configuration. So there's a new ability. So you have the ability to set the time zone and also retrieve it. It's defaulted to the current browser's time zone. It's the IANA time zone from the Intel datetime format API. As mentioned, it's still experimental. And what can you do with it with the set time zone? You actually can change the time zone such that every date format is using this time zone in order to do the date conversion. So how does that look? So you see here, so I'll just refresh this one. I think it's the same date. So it's 25th of March, 13:59. Let's actually see what my current time zone is. Currently, it's Europe Berlin, and I can change it to something else. So it's using the IANA time zone IDs, which is an international standard for time zone, which is the time zone database, the international one. And these are the identifiers. And you can see that the time actually changes. And it's you don't have to change anything on the UI side. It's just via the date format. It's just using this one then as the standard time zone, and then reformats every date, which is passing through the date format. And you can also switch to Sydney. And with this, you can actually have a unified view if you have various sites and all are using the same UI5 app. They can use the same time zone and talk about the same dates, such that a user inside Sydney will be on time with a user from New York. So there you can actually specify the time zone, and then this will be taken in for the dates being displayed. And with that, what we also have, if we scroll a bit further down, we have a new OData type. It's called DateTimeWithTimezone. It's unfortunately a bit cut off, so zoom a bit out. DateTimeWithTimezone, and there you have various. So it's also been you have the possibility of providing a time zone in your bindings, and this will take then the time zone here. So it's still experimental, but exactly, so that's like a developer sneak preview where you have the time zone on the UI. Actually, instead of inside the dates, it's like hidden. It's a global configuration thing, and here you can actually set it via the binding. And it can, of course, also then come from the annotation. What we use here is inside the date format. So a new instance. So it's the getDateTimeWithTimezone instance, and you can format a date to the New York time zone. And I hope this is correct. They are 6 hours behind. Yeah, that makes sense. And of course, you can then, for every Jana time zone, so Australia, Sydney, for example, you can then use this in order to format the date. And as you know, the date format instances, there's also a parse. So if you specify this one here, and, you can parse, for example, I choose a different date, and it's also going to be passed back. Exactly, and with that, I think I'm done. And of course, just to say, so this date format, so it's also available in the SDK. So it's the getDateTimeWithTimezone instance, which has some nice documentation, and it's also an own instance. And as already mentioned, so it's still experimental, but I guess it's just a matter of time and date. Okay, with that, I think I'm through.
Okay, thank you, Tobias. Are there questions? I don't see at least one in the chat. So if not, then I will go ahead and take over sharing. So as Margot initially mentioned, I have around 3 topics, or more or less 2. One is which is related a bit to the deletion of the versions, what we are doing from the cloud. So we announced it also beginning of the year, or even last year, time is running, that we want to remove outdated versions from CDN. And we started already beginning of this year to really remove versions from our CDN. So very old versions like 122 and so on has been removed fully already. And due to the fact that we have already the need to clean up old patch versions of long-running LTS versions, so this long-term support versions of UI5, we thought about a nice concept, how you can refer to these LTS versions in the cloud without specifying a concrete patch version. So when looking into that, we have acquired some LTS versions running, so the long-term maintenance, the 196, 184, 171, 138. And all these versions are there since quite a while, and many of them have really, really high patch versions already. But yeah, developers which are consuming then the concrete versions, they need to specify as of today the concrete patch version. And this is what we want to get rid of, and we call this concept the Evergreen version concept for the long-term maintenance versions, that you are able to refer to the major minor version only and the patch will be determined by the server, and you will then automatically upgrade to the latest patch version. This feature will be available soon with a 100 version of UI5. So, and it will also be available then for the old versions because it's a server-side feature, what we have implemented. So it means that only the latest running version needs to be updated on the cloud platform, which is then the one the CDN is running with. And this is the 100, which will be then available in quite some time, 3-4 weeks from now or so, on the cloud platform. So I just want to give you a brief look into that. So what you can do then is just ignore the first part, is to use a major minor version to address the sub UI core.js, the bootstrap. And with that, it will not work because there are some requirements now to this bootstrap. First of all, this bootstrap, which is done behind the scene, it's using the cache busting mechanism of UI5. And we also want you to upgrade then to the asynchronous booting. So the precondition is to make your boot asynchronous. Data SAP UI async needs to be set to true. And what I need to do as well is, because if the bootstrap is asynchronous, then the script cannot work synchronously. Typically, you can have also a module, or if you have the component, but if you have it like here inside, then you need to have maybe a callback function like the onInit. And let's do so. Just put that in the onInit and say in the bootstrap script, once you are booted, call the data SAP UI onInit function. So having done this, the button is now coming back. So let's look into the network trace, what's really happening here behind the scenes. And when I run that now, and I need to make it a bit smaller, then I see that here a sub UI core.js is being loaded. We don't see it right now. It's from 171, but directly afterwards, it's loading the 171.46. So the cache busting mechanism is taking place because the response coming back from the server will do the redirection to the proper version for this bootstrap script. And I need to move now the zoom window here a bit. So the one thing I also would like to show you, we by intention did not make it out of the box async. We said the property needs to be there because then you can also change the bootstrap to a concrete URL without any additional effort. But if I now make the async, remove the async, you will see also in the console that there is a proper error message coming up, which states to you that the bootstrap script needs to have this data SAP UI async property or attribute set to true. So this is the way how it works. Another nice side effect, what we did to this bootstrap here, is that you can also use these kind of URLs then to address the documentation. And you will get then automatically redirected to the concrete patch version 171.46, which is the latest patch level for the 171 major minor version. And this is working out of the box then. So this only works then, and we did it by intention, only starting with 171. So 138 will not be supported because the asynchronous bootstrap is not working that way there. And yeah, with that, that's the Evergreen part. So as said, 100 is the next version where you can also then try to use that. We will also share it then again with a blog post with some instructions. Okay, second thing what I want to share with you is an upgrade an update of the Easy-UI5 generator. So a while back, we released the 3.3.0 version of the Easy-UI5 generator to handle properly post installs, so mainly bug fixes in, or that the GitHub org logging is done properly. But there is one important thing, it's a new feature of the Easy-UI5 generator that it allows to run also headless, more or less embedded in another generator or in another script. And that's what I want to really share with you. So today I also created a blog post and I just published it before the UI5ers live. We wanted to make it possible to get even easier started with UI5, and therefore there was this nice idea in 1 or 2 sessions back here in the UI5ers live. Why not or also use the npm init and Easy-UI5 or npx create Easy-UI5. And therefore, a new package has been created as part of the UI5 community project, the create Easy-UI5, which is nothing else than an npm init wrapper for Easy-UI5 itself. And for that, you have now 3 options how to use the Easy-UI5 generator in addition. You can either call it with npm init Easy-UI5, specify the template, and then you can even pass arguments like the additional GitHub organization, what Marcel showed in the last UI5ers live. There is also the npx command, which is pretty similar, but there you need to specify the full name of the npm package, create Easy-UI5, and you can also specify template and arguments behind that. And it comes also, if you install it globally in your system, that you have a binary called Easy-UI5, which can do the same. And with that, I just wanted to briefly show that to you. Which one should I use? Let's use the npm init, which was the first thought of that, Easy-UI5. So this is then calling internally the Yeoman generator. If it's not installed locally on your system, it will download the create Easy-UI5 npm package, install it for you. And then you can select from one of these templates here. And the rest is then finally taking just doing the same steps like the Easy-UI5 is doing. So I can just click through and create it. And then I have my project created. Another option is, for example, if I want to, let's use the binary and I say Easy-UI5 TS app. This is now selecting already the template for the TypeScript application from the list of templates which are available at the UI5 community. And last but not least, the npx command. There, let's say we want to have the additional GitHub organization. I need to say create Easy-UI5 at additional GitHub org is mine. And, typo. And now I should see the list of the standard templates of Easy-UI5 plus my own templates. Here you see it in the cornered brackets. And this is now really a convenient way as well, in addition to the Easy-UI5 generator, how you can get started even easier with your UI5 application or library or whatever development projects. That's it, what I wanted to share with you for today. I think we are good in time. And is there anyone who wants to say something? Is there any question? 3, 2, 1.
I'd probably like to jump in before we close this off and again mention that for wdi5, there's a public roadmap out that you guys can check out. That's one thing. And the other thing I'd like to say already now, thanks to some additional contributors who've picked up backlog items and who've picked up development tasks. So we didn't foresee that, but even the better that it already happens now. It shows that there's a demand in the community, and I really appreciate you guys getting on board.
Cool, thank you, Volker. I think Margot's microphone is damaged, right? So I have the honor to close the session for today. So thank you, Volker, for being our guest to present the current status of the wdi5 and giving us a little bit of an insight on the topic. Thank you, Tobias, for showing number formatting, strictly number formatting, and time zone handling for the dates. And with that, I think we can close for today. And thanks again for your attendance today.